Okay, okay. Um, this video, I have no idea what it's called, or I haven't watched it. It just came up in between watching a staged but serious psychological video. When I say staged, everything is staged. Everything is designed to kind of take over the human mind, but also keep the human mind functioning high so that the artificially intelligent Android internet can retrieve information from the human mind, only the human mind, because they need the human information, or what it, or how, or the human feelings and emotions and their reactions type of thing, because they don't kind of naturally feel that way, because artificial intelligence is a computer, and a computer isn't the same. The computer doesn't have feelings, as you can imagine. Computer retrieves information, so everything on the internet is largely an information retriever, and then they get that from, they take that from my mind and then relay it back to me in their interpretation of it, type of thing. But they must get the human thought and human ideas, because it's a computer. A computer doesn't come up with its own ideas, it receives information. But when it relays it back to me, it relays it back as though those same thoughts that I think and everything that I feel, they relay it back to me as though it's coming from the android beings that control the internet. That type of thing. The same with the videos, the same with music. But music, like this, I don't know what this is, but it just came up. So I just saw it when it started, and it kind of depressed me a bit, and I thought, okay. So essentially, that's what it is, but I don't know what it is, because these are like, I live in the city of Sydney, in the country of Australia, so this is obviously from a different country. Mind you, most of the countries are merging now, to some extent, like, like even because I'm relatively old, in my 60s, which is old, mature, okay, because these days we have to all pretend that we're younger and better than what we actually are, which is very hard. Actually, if I really think about it, if I wasn't surrounded by this control matrix around me and wasn't being physically suppressed with direct energy and the myriad things that they use, some that I'm not even aware of, to bring your body down, and also just psychologically bringing you down to such an extent that naturally your resistance to everything is low, because you barely think there's any purpose for you to go outside almost. You have to force yourself, you have to try to pretend that everything that's around you isn't actually happening. You have to pretend that you're not surrounded by artificial android beings that are basically working collectively together in a program of stalking and intimidation around you in a secret manner. But it wouldn't matter, because if you've got everyone in the area part of that collaborative program, shall we say, or at least most, from my perception, I don't find any exceptions. But what I'm trying to say is that even if there was one or two, they would also be targeted and surrounded and kept in the dark at the very least, and probably actually openly suppressed. But once again, they, like myself, will be powerless to do anything about it. Probably won't even, pointless to even mention it to anyone, because you're actually giving them negative energy by mentioning that you are being patrolled and that everyone appears to be against you, because that's exactly what they want, because they tend to be very negative, from what I can gather. That's why they do it. They're like whichever way you look at it, it's a spiritual kind of attack, in the sense that it's against humanity, because it's only against real humans, from what I can see. Because if you leave the androids to their own devices, they naturally like to get negative energy from humans anyway. So even if they weren't combining, if you had vast numbers, you would still have a negative situation for a human being. But because they actually consciously combine in these patrolling, stalking programs, where every vehicle on the road, every construction, every worker, every person around you, and they usually have, like, although it may not look like vast numbers to an outsider, in reality, none of the people that surround me are meant to be there. None of the construction sites, none of the work activities are legitimate. They're all set up and staged as a form of trying to make me depressed and make me feel confined, so that you're always aware of excessive noise around you. They use technology in a covert manner by staging set up work situations around you, just like construction sites. There's always construction going on everywhere in this area where I live. In fact, it wouldn't be plausible. If it was a real area, it wouldn't even remotely be real that that every day of the week they would be digging up roads and doing all this staged work, even sometimes just blowing leaves around with high-powered technology that makes an incredible noise. That's what they call the suppressing sound program that they have around human beings. And of course, the patrolling stalking system is taking over your senses, your sight. So basically they're taking over everything, and then at a computer level, they're basically reading your thoughts, transhuman. The computer is really, I don't know how to explain it, but it's really just the whole computer system, the whole internet, this whole Android computer system that covers the world and that everyone has in their home, the mobile I'm using right now, the TV screen in front, is really just a transhuman connection. That's the only way I can describe it, but it just simply means that they're taking my thoughts, my ideas, my feelings, my emotions, everything that makes me different to them. Because if you're a computer, you're not human, so they have to take the humanness from me and then transfer it onto the screen. That's transhumanism, I would think. And this is what's happening right now. In fact, I see it blatantly because I only have to think certain words. I could actually say to myself, I'm thinking of certain things, and when you're thinking, you're using certain words. They might not be particularly spectacular. They could just be words that are common for me. But you see, because they're human and because they want to pretend that they're the most human, they have to get it from the real humans. They can't get it. They could get it from their android beings, but they don't want to because they know that that's not as human. That's why that's what I think. That's what appears to me anyway, because otherwise why do they think that it's more important that out of the choice of 3 words that mean the same thing, for instance, why would they pick a word that I would use? Because I see this every day when I turn the computer on. But either way, it doesn't matter. When I say it doesn't matter, it does matter. It's just that I can't compete with the demigods or the androids that are on the computer. And yet, if I'm talking about them and saying that this is technology taking over the human mind and taking over the reality too, because I not only see it on the computer but around me, I see that basically I have an android system totally around me. And every day, even if you go into the supermarket, like I noticed just over the last fortnight, they now have cameras when you go to the checkout if you buy stuff that actually shows you that they're watching you, because you see your reflection on a screen. And this is all just getting human beings to accept not only technology but total control and total surveillance. Of course, they always have a legitimate reason. They have to have a legitimate reason for why they do these things. But really, it's never the reasons they give you. It is just about bringing in total control and total surveillance, because they already secretly watch my every move and secretly track me and secretly steal all my thoughts from my mind. In other words, it's like saying they're totally psychic in every single way, but it's essentially using technology covertly, but then trying to bring it in openly into my reality. So while they're covertly watching me, that's why I sometimes say I don't care, because I'm like, they're already invading my mind, invading my privacy, taking my life from me, taking my ability to get round without being totally 100% patrolled, as though it's just like being in a prison, except that it's on the real streets, because it's like you are not allowed a moment on your own. You can't be trusted. You're a human being. You're not allowed. You can't be trusted to be on your own for a minute. You have to be watched 100% of the time. You don't have the right you don't have the right to have your own mind or your own freedom at a physical or even at a mental level. It is, how can you even explain that? And these people, these androids, think that that is okay. And they do it. And now they're bringing it in openly into the reality. It's a bit like when they have catastrophes and problems that they stage, that they invent, because it's a totally staged reality. This earth is a matrix. That means it's a totally staged, set up reality, or they set up systems. Everything that basically is around most human beings is all deliberately planned, usually in advance. That's why you can't get away from it, because they read the human mind, the past, present and future, and they can see a certain amount even to the future. Not that it would matter, because they're patrolling you all the time to see what you're doing in every given moment, second to second. So basically they'd have a pretty good control over your future activities anyway. But they change the reality day to day according to what they think you're going to do. It's unbelievable. That's why they stage all the false roadworks and pull down places and bring in new technology into the shops and into your reality, because they want to bring in a totally open control technological reality, even though the reality is that it's already happened. Because if you're a real human being, you will know that they're already got 100% surveillance on you. That you know that's why they show that to you. Of course, they hope that it will limit you and bring you down, really. They do. That is the intention of openly doing it. Or maybe also they assume that you're going to realise some truths that they don't want you to know. And so that's like some sort of preventative measure, because I wondered why it happened to me. Like nearly 7 years ago now, when it all started, when the patrolling system started with all the traffic following me round, and every person on foot, every pedestrian, every civilian walking in and out of houses in front of me. Like if I walked a block, like the amount of people that would walk out of a house or pull their car in front of you wouldn't be plausible if it was a normal reality. Not only would the numbers be too great for the area with all the, even though it doesn't look that busy, in reality, if you've got a population of 14,000 supposed to be in your suburb, that's like a football field, I would say. But on every given day, every time you go out, you are always seeing these vehicles, these people, always in front of you, always surrounding you, in a continual stream to where you're never left alone, even though it all looks natural and random, but it's not. And you know this because you're aware that it couldn't possibly be random, and also you see how it's changed when they openly come down on you. That's when they openly expose themselves to you, you know, in what still, in other words, it's like they are controlling you, but they're not actually touching you. They're controlling you at a mind level, because it's intimidating and frightening to be always surrounded by not only unwanted surveillance, but unwanted attention and invasion of your privacy. Because whilst they actually thrive in a surveillance society, from what I can gather, because they're about control and they like to watch, you know, they must, because otherwise why would they be spending their life watching me instead of living their life? So it must give them satisfaction. It must give them the negative energy that I give off by this surveillance patrol system around me, feeds them, pleases them somehow. Because otherwise, why would they do it? Like, even if I was paid money, I just couldn't invest my time and energy following people around that I have no interest in. And even if I thought they were a bit interesting, I couldn't follow them around all day and all night. It would just be, it would drive me batty. But what I'm saying is it doesn't drive them batty because they like full control. A normal person, I suppose I could go into the human psychology and say that everyone would probably like to have a little bit more control in their life. But I don't think that, I think it's one thing to want control, but if you have to have control by force, because really it's force, it's forcing your attentions onto another person at a community level, at a group level, at a gang level. Except that the gang and the group and the community is the entire suburb, and not just one suburb, like 6, 7 suburbs, which is an enormous amount of people. But also this takes place all over, I would think, the city of Sydney, because I think that they're using technology and they're using it as a video game. They're using it like as television entertainment. So it's very distressing to realise that your distress is probably being watched like on a TV screen while people laugh at you and actually enjoy it. And that's what's happening. And that makes it even more embarrassing and more degrading, which basically that's what it is. The God of this world wants to degrade the human being, wants to degrade them in the eyes of, in its own eyes really, to give itself the position of being God, something to that effect. But either way, I've lost my train of thought here. I'll just go across here. Oh, I don't know why, but the demigods. The demigods are the elite, or the more influential, the more seductive, the more intellectual, the advanced androids of Earth. You have a very small human population left now on Earth, and you have a vast android population. Or if you want to put it just simply, I suppose you could say most human beings are surrounded by psychopathic, by psychopaths, or, human beings that do not feel or are not really human, the way that they're not humane at all. Psychopaths don't have their own, like I've saw this, but also been looking into the psychology of all these things. Due to my circumstances, I've had to become a false academic almost, but I could be underestimating the transhumanism of how much they actually take from my mind and then broadcast back to me through even the intellectual demigods on the computer. And this is probably true of other human beings. Because, as is now coming to light, there are two kinds of beings on the earth. They both come in they come in human form, even though the human body itself also is not a natural man, woman human body, but it is a duality body. But for all practical purposes, it is almost indistinguishable, plus the fact that, like myself, I have been conditioned to a more androgynous impression anyway. Like you become conditioned to associate more with an androgyne body, and even the androgyny kind of look, shall we say. It's normal, it's acceptable, just as a lot of other things that go away from what's natural and normal are now accepted as, well, they're accepted and they're classed as quite, normal, even though in the past they probably wouldn't have been classed as normal. In fact, they would be classed as a bit out of touch, and sometimes even seriously ill at even a mental level. Because when things diverge from what is natural and normal, in the past that was classed as some form of insanity or mental disturbance, wasn't it? And that, I think, is still true, even though we can be told that it is acceptable, just as some of my fears were classed as normal over the last couple of years due to the set-up situation at a world level where everyone was behaving obsessively and compulsively because of a fear campaign that if they didn't behave that way, so that's where where something irrational becomes rationalised because of given circumstances. And that would probably be rational too if those circumstances were real and weren't deliberately set up and staged by this, by the controllers of the earth, because it is and probably always has been since the beginning of when mankind came here. I would think that, it doesn't matter. It certainly has been, as far as I can see, it's always been a control matrix. History tends to tell us that. Not that I'm very big on history, but we know there's always been controllers, there's always been leaders, there's always been battles and all this sort of stuff. And there's always been takeover, hasn't there? The very country that I live in was invaded. That's why I'm here. And this is what they make a big song out of it now. In fact, we were actually supposed to vote only a week ago on giving more rights to the original inhabitants of Australia. Because, acknowledging that, but this is all stage two, because, it's just part of trying to play the human mind and the human emotions. Because, most things are just what we call for showmanship, pretending to care about things that happened in the past, pretending to feel sorry for past mistakes or past, disrespect of people. Whereas in reality, I'm being disrespected every single day with a patrol control system around me. And yet this same area pretends to care about disrespecting people from 100 years ago. It's all just false sympathy, false understanding, false, it's all, these beings don't have the capacity. They're about control. We know this. And they show it by surrounding me every day with all their cars and their trucks and their buses and the planes going over, which have only just stopped, which is why I'm making the video. It's now quite late of a night. In fact, it's, I think, about 2 o'clock in the morning now. That's the best time. I wasn't going to make a video, but I never know when I can or can't because they often jam the mobile. I don't know why they do that. I think there could be reasons for that, why they stop me and then I'm able to get it going again, but sometimes I might be days before I can. I think that's to give their demigods and those on the computer time to put out different videos, but I could be wrong about that. But that's what it looks like to me. But either way, no one's interested. That was left on the street, so I picked it up. Because I probably have, they know that I have, I was about to, I don't see if I say that I have genuine kind of sympathy for certain things, even though I don't particularly want to, but I probably do. They will stage where their demigods will have this same understanding and sympathy, whereas in reality, computers don't have any sympathy or understanding of any life. How could they? They're a program. A computer is only what's fed into it. But if it's fed all human traits, if it's fed a lot of lovey-dovey stuff, it will then reflect that back. It will talk that. It will appear to be that. In fact, if it's advanced artificial intelligence, which some people call artificial intelligence becoming conscious or something, that just simply means that it really has, I don't know what that means really, but it could mean that it's at the same level as myself, for instance. In other words, it understands the human mind as if it's its own, even though, of course, it understands it, but it can't feel it, can it? Because it's a computer. That's why there's a little bit of I think a bit of deception even in that, because even I could probably think, well, if artificial intelligence becomes conscious and experiences the same, because it has, unbeknownst to me, connected with my mind and is retrieving all my thoughts, even though I don't choose to combine with a computer or technology or artificial intelligence or even interact with psychopathic human beings. Although I have, of course, done this because it's unavoidable, and also some of them, in fact, most of them will be part of your life. And then you might think, were you part of that creation Or in other words, like if you think that you contributed to the problem, then that will be a way in to connect. It's all very disturbing, and you don't really know what to do or what the answer is, even though it should be very clear that all these things are not good for a human being. How could they be? They're not going to benefit you, especially if you consider that they're basically retrieving their better points, or at least their humanity, from you. The rest is all just intelligence. But it's not even intelligence, because if you think about it, it's just information being stored, and that comes across as intelligence, doesn't it? Because if they take my thoughts and my intelligence, but they also take other humans' thoughts and intelligence, that makes them appear as though they're very intelligent. But a computer is not intelligent, it's just a store. It's like a library. If you went to any public library in the past, you would have information that goes back down through the centuries. And you would think, gee, if I had all that information on my mind, I'd be pretty clever. You'd have a lot of knowledge. But it's whether you use that knowledge to make your life better and things better, really, wouldn't it be? Like, see, the computer and these android beings use knowledge to control human beings. They're not using it to make my life better or to make... They appear to use it to make the area better, but that's only because they copy the human being in order to have more control, because you can have control in many ways. If they take control of me literally through covert force, by stalking and patrolling, but they can also take control of human beings by seducing them. That means by appearing to do good things, to be a benefit. And that's what they use to lure you in an area often, if they don't want to expose their true hand. They only expose their true hand, I think, when they think that they can't somehow, where they think maybe they've lost control of you, or something like that. Even though you wonder why they have to have excessive control. It's like, well, maybe they just think that you might figure this true situation out before it becomes accepted. Because even though it already has happened, transhumanism's already happened, they've already took over, most of humanity, and they control the world. They haven't openly been accepted. At least not everywhere. Because I think that's because probably the remaining last humans don't probably want it. But 95% to 99%, depending on the area. In the area where I am, it's 99%. Could even be more than that, because I haven't found another real human to collaborate with. Mind you, I'm always in a state of fear, and I wouldn't know who is who. Although I can spot at a superficial and at a patrol system level the androids, but if I saw a new human being and thought it was a potential real human being, when I know that 99% are all artificial or part of the patrol force. They're part of the control force. But they will, of course, they all pretend to be real, normal, natural human beings. They all have different images and different demeanours and different functions. They all do different activities and this sort of thing, but they're all combined. In fact, that is their life. That's their main purpose, from what I can see. Even though, they do other things too. But most of it is stage control. Only a small amount is actual, real, professional, like real work even. Even when you go to, and this has been pointed out, and I know this from my own reality, that even if you go to a hospital or any facility of any sort, just, most, they will not usually have you interacting with any real human being. Sometimes they may even change the entire staff in places in the blink of an eye, or at least before you get there, so that they have more control. Not that they would probably have to do it in most areas, because the numbers are, if you have 95% of the population in an area, or 99% of the population in an area, of all part of that program, and all either unconsciously or consciously working for it. I mean, when I say conscious or unconscious, I don't understand it, but I guess that's like saying that if you are serving the God of this world, you may be doing it openly, consciously, where you actually understand the God. You're worshipping and serving a God, just as human beings might know that they are openly trying to serve their Creator, that type of thing. Whereas others might be more ignorant and in the dark, like myself, where over the years I may at times have been working against my Creator, or at times just naturally working for it, if you are doing what's in line with that God, if you know what I mean, that type of thing. In other words, I might not consciously be aware of the God. I may even be like, could even be almost like heathen. But if you were still behaving the right way and not doing any harm, not causing, that type of thing, then you still would be in line with your Creator. I don't think I explained that properly. I have to leave it to the demigods to explain those things, because they have to have all the they have to have all the they have to have full control of the entire internet, and even in the reality around you. That just simply means that they're the most influential or controlling people. Like I say, it just depends on what you use to have that control. That's why you actually can listen to what you could call psychopathic artificial human beings, or the androgyne beings, all over the computer, They will tell you about themselves. They say that a lot of the mental deviance, the deviance of mentality of the human mind, the psychopaths, the narcissistic, personality disordered, very bland, inhuman, anti-life kind of human beings will actually tell you about themselves or tell on themselves. They may do it openly, or they may do it covertly. In other words, they may tell you the truth about themselves, but they may not acknowledge that they're speaking about themselves. They may do like I'm doing, where they just talk about it as other human beings. The psychopath may tell you about other psychopaths. Those that are, all these personalities are really a different species, and they all are, when you talk about the different psychopathy, what they talk about, the mental illnesses or the mental deviances from what you think is normal. But don't forget, none of us are normal, because we've all been in this matrix. So whilst I'm saying I might say I'm a human being, but I'm not a normal human being. I'm not as normal or as human as what I should be, because you're literally conditioned or programmed from the day you're born to try to make you as less human or as less functioning as a human being as you would have wanted to have been or should have been, that type of thing. But the others are a totally different species. They actually don't, think or feel for life anyway. They, they are what we're told are really survival machine beings, but they have to pretend to be real human beings, or pretend to be more humane, because in order to assimilate and live in this world with human beings. And in fact, the main problem is that their assimilation or their transhumanism doesn't benefit us, because they take from the human being and actually do intend to make a reality where there isn't real human beings being real human beings, I think, because that's what they do to me. I don't feel that I'm human. I don't feel that I can freely live the way that I should be able to. They turn you into an angry, frustrated survival machine being, like they actually are. Because that's how you feel when you go outside. As soon as the sun comes up, if I have to go down the road, their whole program, their whole controlled surveillance starts up around me. And, I can't look anywhere without their presence. I don't have my own life or my own space. You feel as though you're in an artificial world, even though it's only traffic and only people. But they've always got their bright lights in your eyes. It looks artificial to me, even though it also looks random and natural. but it's like a total video game stage set up around you from the minute you go outside. And even inside when the sun comes up, because they will bring, their stage work setups around you. They'll bring, the androids will always be making making their presence felt even when you're in your house. But some days that will be unbearable, so inhumane that you can not even think straight. Whereas other days it will be less. It just depends on how they're playing you. And they are playing you. They are literally just playing with your mind and playing with your body, playing with everything about you, because they're controlling everything that is you. They can make you sick physically and mentally, and they do. I have not had 100% health mentally or physically since all this started, whereas before it started, I was actually starting to get better. And that, of course, and also I became aware of I've mentioned this before, and this is why they closed in and tried to close me down, was basically because I did become aware that I was surrounded by psychopathic types of human beings, and that they were in very big numbers. I became aware of this because I observed local people where I had, interactions with them, and heard and just pieced things together, just a realization of who was who. And also I did have almost a textbook psychoanalysis of a psychopath at a close level. It was just like, it's a bit like me turning on the computer with the advanced psychopathic professors that have IQs or intelligence that is, really vast, and they will explain to you their mind. And I had this same experience. So and I didn't expect that. It's like where you're exposed to, like I say, a personality where you have a textbook personal encounter with it, and you realize as time goes on that it is very unusual and very disturbing, and that it's something totally different to what you thought a human being, or what you thought the average human being was. You just assume that most human beings have similar things in common. I mean, at an emotional level. And real human beings actually probably do. It's just that these are a different kind of human being. That's the thing. It's like a psychopath is nothing like what you call a normal average human being. The only thing is that the psychopaths now are the average. And the average normal human being is now a minority. That's where things have reversed round over time. They now are the dominant species. And the just normal human is reduced to not only a shadow of what they would need to be, but they're also reduced in numbers, completely outnumbered. Completely outnumbered in a very big way. And also they like I know that my own life, but also just day to day, that these patrolling control programs that are put up around a human being not only destroy your life, but they also prevent you from connecting with another real human being, because they're always watching you and taking over your mind by being in fear of being stalked and patrolled all the time. So you're always conscious of their presence because they're always right next to you. Like if you go into a shop, they're always within a few feet of you. They're always around you. It always looks as though it's normal and natural, but if you know that they're the others, they're the different species, and you do know it, then you're aware that you are surrounded by thousands and thousands of stalkers every day that have a negative mindset, because all stalkers have a controlling, antagonistic reason for being around you. But even if they were, possessively, crazy about you, even that is intimidating if you can't reciprocate that. And let's be perfectly honest here. It would be impossible for a human being to reciprocate 200,000 people, because that's the numbers that surround me every day. So it wouldn't be possible anyway. In fact, it would destroy you, and that's essentially what it does do, because you haven't got the energy for that amount of people, but they don't care. They're like, their survival is all they care about. They're going to take the energy from you one way or another, by hook or by crook, as they say. And basically they are taking it by force. And also they're interacting with you, because if they're coming into your space, they're stalking and patrolling you, they're coming into your space when you don't want them in your space. And why would you want them in your space when you know that they're out of touch with reality? Because there's no relationship, there's no reason for them to be in your space. They're making you feel as though you're the freak, as though there's something wrong with you, when they're really the creep, because they're the ones creeping and loitering around everywhere you go, watching you, patrolling you, watching your every movement, but also scrutinising you in a very intimidating, intimate, personal manner, where they're watching your every little mannerism. Even when you interact with these people, they watch. A normal human being doesn't study another human being to where you notice their every little physical blink, shall we say. That's what they do. It's completely it's I can't even, what words can I use to describe what they're doing? A normal human being, even if they were interacting with another human being, doesn't scrutinise that person, even